You like this one, but it's true. You travel on your own, things work. And it is true, it's true. You like this one? It's great, it's great. I flew into St. Louis, Missouri, from Gatwick, and then I flew from there by myself. No accommodation. Then I flew into McCarran's at Las Vegas. No accommodation, ringing around and trying to find somewhere to stay. And I found to stay where the lorry drivers stay, the King 8 Motel, Las Vegas, just off the Strip. The July the 4th weekend, 1995. What a story, amazing. 24-hour bar. It's where all the lorry drivers stay. I'm an ex-post office lorry driver anyway, 7.5 ton. London a lot of the time. So it's by myself, 1995, July the 4th weekend. What I did was, I phoned up flight bookers Gatwick the lunchtime before. I said, I want to go into Las Vegas. They said, you come tomorrow morning, Saturday, into Gatwick. You just show your Visa card or your debit card, what you paid with your passport, and they gave me the tickets. Less than 24 hours notice. So the tickets weren't sent to me, they didn't need to be, just picked them up at the checkout desk. I flew into St. Louis and Missouri, then I flew into Las Vegas. So I stayed where the lorry drivers stayed. This is true. I went to the Grand Canyon and all that sort of stuff. Now, Luxor's, each hotel casino in Las Vegas has got a theme to it. So there's the MGM Grand, 5,505 rooms. It's got the MGM mouth on it as you walk in, and that's where Mike Tyson used to fight. That's on the Strip. Then you've got New York, which was being built, 1995. And you've got Excalibur's, which is to do with Cinderella. Then you've got Luxor's, which is the pyramid. That's to do with the Sphinx, Egypt. So I was in there with a hat on, because there was a ride in there. There's rides, there's theme parks, there's shopping centres in all these places, everything in these hotel casinos. Caesar's Palace further up the road. Now you want to hear this one, it's great. And so I was in there and there's this ride, and I was wearing a hat a bit like Crocodile Dundee, and there was 3 people there, a man and 2 women, Americans, and they said, are you Australian? I said, no, I'm from England, blah blah blah. They were really interested, and they said, hang around with us, they said. Honestly, they said, you hang around with us. So that was Ricky Sandman and his wife Carla, and he was from Brooklyn, New York, and he was a carpet cleaner in all the hotels in Las Vegas. He's a month older than me, Ricky Sandman. He sings in a band and all that. And they had a friend, Denny. They were probably trying to fix me up with her, but she wasn't interested and I wasn't interested. So you hang around with us, they said. You hang around with us. So they used to knock on my door at the King 8 Motel. They were staying on my own. They used to pick me up. This is true. And we rode up Las Vegas all day, every day, up and down the Strip. Las Vegas in his Jeep. You hang around with us, he said. His father was US Navy, had been US Navy, been all over the States, and he ended up in Las Vegas. But so I hung around with them all week, knocked on the door, helped me with the air conditioning and all that. You hang around with us, they said. So I did, and it was a great week, great week. And so we went up and down the Strip all week, went into Caesar's Palace and all that sort of stuff. And it was great. I'm trying to think. I don't know. So I hung around all week, and it was a brilliant week. And we were in some place, and this bloke came up in a big Harley Davidson, came up from Florida. He said, I'm a mailman from Florida. Postman, and you could trust him straight away. I said, well, I'm a postman in England, post office driver. And he sort of like offered to put me on the back of his bike from Las Vegas into Los Angeles. I didn't go, but he was offering, and I could trust him straight away. And Ricky said to me, I reckon he was going to put you on the back of that bike. I reckon he was going to put you on the back of that bike. And what an adventure that would have been. And but I tell you what, when I left, the last night, I'd been drinking there all week. And I was what? 26. And the last night, security guard came up to me. And he goes, somebody came up to me. He said, we want to know how old you are. How old you are. I told him I'm 26 and all this sort of stuff. And so I showed him my passport, whatever. But because things were handwritten, he didn't really want to know. So I showed him printed evidence like driving licence. And I said, well, who wanted to know? And he goes, them up there in the sky, he says, which was the CCTV. So the wait had been a whole bloody week. And they questioned me. And he was okay. And he goes, you know what? You're a year younger than me. And they let me go. And then I got the Greyhound. And then an African-American couple, funny enough, at the bus station, they had a spare ticket. I don't know why. They didn't want to go, and they gave it to me, sold it to me, and I went into Los Angeles. I went to Los Angeles, and I stayed at the Anaheim Motel, Disneyland, no accommodation, but I got it there, sorted out, at Los Angeles International Airport. So I've been mostly around the world, no accommodation, I just get it when I get there, and I can pick and choose where I want to go. And you're by yourself. So I stayed at the Anaheim Motel, Disneyland, and I was the only person in the motel. So I was right spot on Anaheim Motel. And I flew from there. I went into Hollywood. That's a bloody ghost town. And there was a couple there, probably with their daughter in the car. And I was with my luggage. Walking along. And they came along in the car, and they said, just leave your luggage in the Sheraton Hotel. They'll be all right with that. So they put me in the back of the car. Come with us, and they dropped me off at the Sheraton Hotel. I left my luggage, and I went over to Universal Studios, spent the day there, and I went back to the hotel, and then I flew back the next morning into Las Vegas, I think, from Los Angeles Airport, LAX, and from Las Vegas then I went over to St. Louis, because that's TWA Airlines, and then back to Gatwick, so I was there for about 8 days. So I find my feet as I go along. Same with and it works. Did that in Hong Kong, no accommodation, and they said, we can tell you where to go, we can't recommend. So I stayed at the YMCA, 28 Waterloo Road, straight off Nathan Road. At the YMCA, men, women only floors, air stewardesses stay there, and it's just like staying off Oxford Street. £30 a night. It was on the 17th floor, by myself, and it's great. It's a great experience. And I flew from there into Charles de Gaulle in Paris. One morning, and all the businessmen from Paris were trying to go over to London. And I got chatting to a bloke on the same flight as me, Lester Koo. He was Chinese, lived in New Cross, South East London. So we got chatting. We nearly missed our flights, and they called us. So we went onto the flight, and all these businessmen were looking at us a bit funny, because they're trying to get to work. And went from Charles de Gaulle into Heathrow, and I got off the flight, and the air stewardess smiled at me, French. Air France, so I flew with Air France, so you have to go into Paris, Charles de Gaulle, north side of Paris. And it depends who you fly with, then you flew with Royal Dutch Airlines, you go to Schiphol, in Amsterdam. If you're going to Air France, you go into Paris. And she smiled at me as I got off the flight at Heathrow. She goes, "Goodbye, Mr. O'Connor," she says. And that was great. What an experience. I could tell you loads.